When Michael died, it didn't feel real. My older brother, the strongest man I ever knew, had whispered his last words in a cold hospital room just 3 months earlier. Then his lawyer called with a request that made no sense. A USB drive? I asked, pacing the kitchen while Emily cooked dinner. Yes, Mr. Radley said. Michael was very clear. Watch it alone. And don't tell Emily. Those last 4 words hit me like a punch. Emily was my wife of 5 years. She'd cried beside me at Michael's funeral. Why would he warn me about her? The package arrived that afternoon. A small padded envelope with no return address. Emily handed it to me with a grin. Secret admirer? Just work. I lied. That night, after she fell asleep, I slipped into my office, plugged in the drive, and opened the only file. Michael appeared on the screen. He looked frail. The cancer had stolen most of his strength, but his voice was steady. Hey, James, if you're watching this, I'm gone. I'm sorry, but you need to know the truth before it's too late. He took a slow breath. Emily isn't who you think she is. I froze. I didn't want to believe it either. That's why I gathered proof. Everything is on this drive. The video ended, revealing a folder filled with videos, emails, and financial records. My hands went numb. I clicked the first video. A grainy restaurant camera came into focus. I recognized the place immediately, La Traviata, the restaurant Emily always claimed she hated. Yet there she was, smiling across the table from Trevor. Trevor, Michael's former business partner, the man who disappeared after Michael got sick. Michael's voice played over the footage. I thought I was imagining things, but they're not just having an affair. They forged my signature, stole my final business deal, and moved $600,000 into a shell account under your name. My heart stopped. You've probably noticed strange banking alerts. That's why I investigated. The documents are in a safety deposit box. The key number is on this USB. Suddenly, everything made sense. Emily's obsession with my finances. The accidental deletion of Michael's emails. Her constant pressure to sell my shares after he died. Let go of the past, she'd always said. It wasn't advice. It was part of the plan. Near the end, Michael looked exhausted. I couldn't stop them, but you can. Don't confront her yet. Watch. Gather evidence. Then make one move they can't recover from. The screen went black. I sat there in silence until a knock came. Everything okay? Emily asked sweetly. I forced a smile. Yeah, just thinking about Michael. She stepped inside with a mug of coffee, pretending to comfort me. But her eyes never left my desk, or the USB drive. She wasn't worried. She was checking. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I followed Michael's instructions. The next morning I opened the safety deposit box. Inside were bank records, recorded phone calls, notarized documents, and copies of every forged contract. Michael had documented everything. Then I installed a keystroke tracker on our shared computer. Within a day, I had Emily's passwords. What I found made me sick. Emails between her and Trevor. Not love letters. Blueprints. He's almost ready to sell his shares. Move the money through the Wyoming LLC. Delete Michael's name from the contracts. One message from 2 weeks earlier chilled me the most. We've drained him enough. Time to file for divorce and take the house. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been using me from the beginning. The next morning I kissed her goodbye like nothing had changed. While she showered, I copied every email onto a secure drive. That afternoon I secretly recorded her phone call with Trevor as they laughed about how easy I was to fool. That night I called Michael's lawyer. File the freeze. Within hours, our joint accounts were locked. Every suspicious transfer was frozen. Every company document bearing my name was flagged for a fraud investigation. The next morning Emily stormed into my office, gripping her phone. James, my bank card stopped working. What did you do? I looked up calmly. Maybe ask Trevor. She froze. At that moment, my phone buzzed. The private investigator I'd hired had finished his report. Emily and Trevor had just applied for a joint loan using my business credit. I turned the laptop toward her. Photos. Hotel receipts. Forged paperwork. Even a picture of them kissing outside my office. I trusted you, I said quietly, but you betrayed a dying man, and his brother. I stood. Pack your things, you're leaving today. She laughed nervously. You can't make me. I stepped aside. 2 uniformed police officers were standing at the front door. Actually, I said, I can. Fraud. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Should I keep going? The color vanished from her face. She screamed in rage. This is insane, James. How could you do this to me? The officers didn't even blink. The officers had seen it all before. Fake tears. Fake outrage. One officer read the protection order while the other told Emily to pack her belongings. I'll sue you, she screamed. You'll lose everything. I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up the framed photo of Michael and me on the day we opened our first office. I lost everything the day I trusted you, I said quietly. That night Trevor called. I ignored it. Then everything collapsed. The forensic audit Michael had prepared uncovered every lie. Stolen money. Fake vendors. Hidden shell companies. Millions traced back to Emily and Trevor. By sunrise, lawsuits were filed, criminal investigations began, and every account connected to them was frozen. Emily disappeared from the public eye. Trevor went into hiding. But Michael's final wish wasn't revenge. It was justice. 2 weeks later, I reopened the Hamilton Brothers Foundation in his honor. Its mission was simple, to help victims of fraud, manipulation, and family betrayal rebuild their lives. At the press conference, I ended with one sentence. Real courage is telling the truth, even when you know you won't live to see it win. That night my phone rang from a blocked number. Trevor. You think you've won? He whispered. This isn't over. The call ended. I immediately sent the recording to the police. Then I hired private security and upgraded every camera around my home and office. 3 nights later, my security system caught someone trying to break into my house. The floodlights flashed on. The intruder ran. The cameras captured his face. Trevor. Within hours, police issued another warrant and reopened older fraud and harassment cases tied to him. Michael had been collecting evidence long before he became sick. Even after his death, he was still protecting me. Standing at his memorial weeks later, I finally understood. Michael spent his final months preparing for the day he wouldn't be there. Not to get revenge. To make sure I could finally live without fear. Months passed. Trevor was arrested while trying to flee the country using a fake identity. Emily accepted a plea deal and agreed to testify against him. Their empire of lies fell apart piece by piece. As for me, I rebuilt the company. The foundation helped hundreds of people escape financial abuse and manipulation. Every success carried Michael's name. On Christmas morning, a small envelope arrived. Inside was an old photograph. Michael and I were 12 years old, covered in mud after building our first treehouse, both of us laughing like nothing in the world could break us. There was no letter. No final message. There didn't need to be. I placed the photo beside his portrait and smiled. For the first time since losing my brother, I wasn't living for revenge anymore. I was living the life he gave everything to protect.